How do you escape a scheme that drives us apart? Have you ever wondered why we need so many laws, and then some time passes, and then we need another law? Are they working? Do they work? Oscar Wilde wrote, "The secret to life is to enjoy the pleasure of being terribly, terribly deceived." So would you like to live with awareness and peace? Perhaps build safety and security into your future and for generations ahead? I'm Roach. I'm Mark Roach. I'm here to help you get what you want, understand what you need, and to know the difference. The idea of deception is disturbing to me. My experience with trauma allowed me the luxury of a broken life, which gave me insight into how we are operating as opposed to what we are saying. If you don't know what Oscar Wilde was referring to in regard to deception, maybe you do have a big surprise ahead. I call it our blind side. It's the stuff in life we don't talk about, that we keep quiet about. It's also the stuff that we may not even notice in life. Notice in others, may not even notice in our professions, or even in ourselves. As I've mentioned, all the data that's being collected as well as advances in neuroscience is pointing to the idea that we don't have as much control over our lives as we say we do. Most of us are living in the momentum that began by the expectations of parents, teachers, community, and the commitments that we made when we were younger. And that defines the patterns and focus of our lives today. We're caught up with working and paying bills, moral obligations to home, children, and family. We don't even take the time to reset and examine our lives unless something goes terribly wrong. We find a role in society and repeat it nearly robotically. There are those who support that or depend on it. It leads to an identity and sometimes a lot of recognition and pride. Such may very well be the stuff that Wilde mentions taking pleasure in. Now, when we're driven by these patterns to repeat, there is an element of self-justified competition in much of our society. It's about survival, right? Inherent in such justification are primal behaviors such as dominance and control. Many repeat these patterns in their life, chasing the carrot from graduation into retirement, and they believe that ultimately their aspirations are going to lead to freedom. But are they? In actuality, we are rarely making free choices. Most of us in this dogmatic repetition build a prison, and there's no room for spirit in repetition that isolates and divides people into states of fear and competition. Makes them into robots and acting on formulas for life that bring a void to their spirit. And perhaps the greatest deception is such behaviors that produce a sense of safety and security. I mean, money is one thing, but for some of us, you have to ask, are you getting enough? Is the spiritual void, the betrayal of ourselves, the betrayal for our silence and for our false sense of pride worth it? The real security and safety are in the unified platform offered by examining yourself, your life, and allowing yourself to connect with your spirit, with the Spirit. Now, there's not a formula for this. I mean, there's several avenues out there, but you have to put your own effort, your own willpower, and mostly you have to put your own choice into action to make this a focus and a priority for you in your life. When you make that commitment to yourself, the aspects of yourself, possibly your shadow, as well as many of the aforementioned aspects of everyday life, will emerge, and you will begin a journey into the unknown. And that's where life gets exciting. That's where you find that you don't settle for substitutes. That's where the addictions and all of the deceptions around the fabric of life that are sustaining these lies, begin to come into your focus and your understanding. And it's at that point that you really begin living your life. This is where love and connection are secure, and supernatural is not the exception, but the norm. I'm not going to tell you that these are easy. There may be a lot of shedding of those skins that you've built up over the years in the dogma and in the patterns that have had this momentum from generations, if not thousands of years of repetition in stories that don't support your spiritual health. But you find yourself understanding how your body can heal itself naturally, and you'll probably get angry. And there are huge economies that you'll see that are built around all of these substitutes and quick fixes that don't last. But freedom from the prisons, from the traps that have been passed down, these things that hold you in the momentum of a life void of free will, a life void of spirit. This freedom, when you find the faith and you begin to actually walk into it, is very exciting and rewarding. So for some of us, trauma is actually the calling to discover the spirit, the freedom, and the practical means to achieve it and sustain connection with it. I'm Roach, Mark Roach. All the best.